Stormtracker rates Weather University on WRIC Now is sponsored by Blank & Marcus, attorneys at law. Nice guys working to make a difference.
And hello, everyone. It is time for another Weather University, and I'm Stormtracker Matt DiNardo, and of course, you know me as Matty D, and I'm always happy to be with you. Boy, oh boy, we have had some wild weather. I was away, and all of a sudden, it went crazy. We had Debbie, and Debbie came up here as a kind of a tropical depression. We had tornado warnings. We had tremendous rainfall. We had a confirmed tornado in Caroline County. Schools that were supposed to open last week were delayed to opening today. Louisa and Caroline were such schools that had that issue. I know many will open next week. So crazy stuff when I was gone. But Jacqueline and Tyler and JB got it all covered, and hopefully you didn't have much damage. I know there was some flooding around and some trees down and things like that. Now we have on the maps this morning what we call a potential tropical cyclone. So we take a look at this area of disturbed weather in the Caribbean, and you can see the red. I've kind of color-coded the clouds that are higher in the sky and the ones that are rain-producing, thunder-producing clouds. Remember, we talk about a tropical system. It is nothing more than a cluster of storms that begins to group together and begins to slowly turn. And that's what, we get a tropical wave that becomes a tropical depression and then a storm. Once it becomes a storm, it gets its name. And by the way, if this does form, we're going to talk about that in a second, its name would be Ernesto. That's the next name on the list. You're saying, well, we've already had an Ernesto. Yes, we have had an Ernesto, but it didn't do a significant amount of damage in terms of either property or dollar value, and it wasn't really a significant storm, so it's not a name that has been retired yet. But it has been used before. In fact, I believe there was some pretty good flooding on the north side back in the late 2007, 2008 era with Ernesto. But anyway, so right now, this area of circulation has winds of 30 miles per hour. It's moving to the west at 26 miles per hour. It's slowly starting to drop in pressure. And we do think with the next advisory, there's the potential that this could then become a tropical storm, or maybe it'll be this afternoon. Again, that's what we're going to be watching. And then it will become Ernesto. Then it's going to slide across the northern Caribbean islands, maybe brush Puerto Rico as it continues to strengthen. And by late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, this could then be a hurricane. Category 1, winds of 75 miles per hour. And then strengthen as we get into Friday and Saturday. You see there as it's passing near Bermuda, but notice it's a big hook away from mainland United States of winds of 110 miles per hour. So this is kind of what we're looking at here with this potential tropical cyclone 5. It's the fifth one, and again, could become Ernesto. All the models do show, well, I should say all the models except for two crazy ones, right? One slides it across the Dominican Republic and Cuba. Let's kind of throw that out because that's an outlier. Another one does a hook. That's kind of weird too. But all the models in general do that slide across the northern Caribbean islands, and they all brush Puerto Rico, so that could be significant. Remember, it was just a few years ago, about 5 or 6, that Maria, which was a Category 5 storm, went right across Puerto Rico and did tremendous damage. Now, this is not to be compared with that, but that's just to point out that Puerto Rico does get hit by tropical systems. And then it moves northward with all the models showing and then sliding away from mainland United States. So again, this is not a concern for us. But we are starting to get closer to the peak of hurricane season. August 1st, things really start to ramp up, and here we are today at August 12th. So we're on that way toward the higher scale there. September 10th is the peak. That's when the winds are typically the lightest. The waters of the ocean, Caribbean, and Gulf of Mexico are the warmest, so storms could form rapidly and rapidly intensify. And then those waters will begin to cool as we head into late summer and then October. And notice how we quickly wind things down once we get out of late October into November. Look, that's not to say that things can't happen. It was just 2 years ago that we had a tropical system come over us on Veterans Day. and do some major problems here. In fact, there were all-day tornado warnings beginning at about 10 o'clock in the morning, going through all afternoon. So, again, crazy things can happen. Remember, the rough idea of the tropical system is from June 1st to November 30th. And again, we're now approaching the peak time of that. So just keep that in mind. Okay, there were some updates, and I'm not sure that we had a chance to really talk about this because we were dealing with Debbie developing and then coming onshore, then potentially sliding over us, which did happen. But there were two updates in the early part of August, one from Colorado State, one from NOAA, that changed their forecast ever so slightly for the tropical outlook. Colorado State University still said we're looking at 23 named storms, but previously they thought 11 would be hurricanes. They upped that to 12, and they previously thought that 5 would be major. They've upped that to 6. The NOAA forecast was 17 to 25. They dropped the upper end of that to 17 to 24. They kept the amount of hurricanes about the same, 8 to 13, and the major 4 to 7 also stayed the same. So very slight modifications to this. We're only at 5, folks. So if we're talking about, let's say, an average of 20 named storms, we have a lot of work ahead of us for sure. And we got to watch. Now, again, when we talk about the forecast, we can't tell you who is going to hit or get hit or how many will hit us. It's just a forecast on how many might form and what the strengths might be. Maybe, like we were just showing with 5, maybe they all start to hook back out to sea. We'll see how things shape up. That probably won't be the case. Again, Alberto formed, Beryl formed, and Chris formed. Those were all tropical storms. And then Debbie formed and became a Category 1 hurricane, and we're looking at the potential for Ernesto. Then after that, we have Francine, Gordon, Helen, Isaac, Joyce, Kirk. You can read the names there. Remember, we use about 22 letters of the English alphabet before going into our second list of names, which I didn't put on the screen because I don't want to talk about getting into a second list of names. That's a really active hurricane season. So I mentioned Debbie was a Category 1 hurricane, which is 74 mile per hour to 95. Category 2 is we talked about what Ernesto might become, 96 to 110. Again, that is saying Ernesto is going to form and then, becoming that. So something to keep in mind. Of course, a major hurricane, which is what we saw in the Colorado State forecast and the NOAA forecast, that begins at 111, a Category 3 storm or stronger. Category 4 is 130 and higher, and then Category 5 is 157 plus. And unfortunately, there have been a few Category 5 storms over the past decade, and we're seeing those more and more now as our ocean waters are stronger and things can ramp up rather quickly. So just keep that in mind. Again, the number one takeaway for today is the fact that we have a storm out there. It is potential tropical cyclone number 5 at about 10:45, so about 5 minutes from now to 10:50. We should get that next update. Based on the satellite picture we were looking at, it doesn't look like we should see any circulation, so probably not going to become a tropical depression or tropical storm yet, but we're going to be tracking the tropics for you until we are out of this hurricane season officially, which hopefully will be before November 30th. But as we know, sometimes crazy things happen, and they can extend a little bit past that. For now, I'm meteorologist Matt DiNardo, and I wish you a great day. And stay with us as we track the tropics. Have a great one, everyone.